If we are issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. He should. He should pardon him his federal charges.
Why didn't I predict it? Of course they're going to push for Derek Chauvin to be pardoned. It's the most obvious thing in the world. I mean, he's a guy who is known for having killed a black man. He has to become some sort of patron saint of the MAGA world. Of course. I mean, the January 6 people that were pardoned included a lot of people who tried to murder cops or whatever. And if they're heroes, then definitely people who are murdering black men, they've got to be one of these. And look, Shapiro seems to acknowledge that it would be a little bit controversial, which seems like it's undercutting it. But there is a bad thing about this for us, those who don't necessarily want to see this pardon. There's good news to end this, so don't worry, I'm gonna give you good news. The bad news is that he has a pretty powerful backer for this idea. We'll get to that in a sec too, but first, here's a little bit more of the idea.
The inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not in fact commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. George Floyd was saying he could not breathe before he was even out of the car. He was in the car saying he could not breathe. Derek Chauvin, for large segments of even the tape that was shown, had his knee on George Floyd's shoulder or back, not on his neck.
Okay, so we're gonna address all of that because there's a lot of problems with what Ben Shapiro is saying there too. But I love that he just throws out that it was the BLM supporters who set our race relations back. Race relations, I guess, were great. And everyone who started to acknowledge that Black Lives Matter and wanted to organize around it, they were all just big whiny babies who were complaining about nothing. And it wasn't the people who defined themselves entirely in opposition to the very idea that Black Lives Matter that were setting race relations back. It wasn't the people who were like, no, all lives matter. Those people were perfectly cool too. No, it was the protesters that set all of this back. And I do want to give Shapiro credit, at least in acknowledging a riot. There's been a lot of ignoring of riots ever since January 6th. So he acknowledged one of them, I guess. But let's also correct the record on Chauvin. According to a doctor who testified, Mr. Floyd's breathing was restricted by the way the officers pushed in his cuffed hands, squeezing his rib cage against the hard pavement, and by Mr. Chauvin's placement of his left knee on Mr. Floyd's neck and right knee on his back. His left knee was on Mr. Floyd's neck more than 90% of the time, according to the doctor, and his right knee was on Mr. Floyd's back at least 57% of the time. All of this is inconvenient facts that Ben Shapiro wants to just be like is totally just, it's a coincidence. I mean, Floyd could have been anywhere in any circumstances and he would have dropped dead in exactly the same way. Nothing irresponsible at all about what Derek Chauvin was doing. But again, they didn't care about the facts back then. They're obviously not gonna care about them right now. They say that Trump won in 2020. Facts don't care about much of anything, I guess, these days. But that said, he does have a backer. Elon Musk retweeted Ben Shapiro and said, something to think about. Again, more great additive social media content by walking genius Elon Musk. But so he wants them to do it. Right-wing media wants them to do it. So Sharon, they're just gonna do it, right? They're just gonna pardon him.
Oh, it's gonna happen. I think we know that it's gonna happen. These people love a good gaslighting, and that's all they're doing. Let's gaslight, let's be cruel, let's misstate the facts, and that's just what we're doing. Because first of all, he's a black man. Why would he even be brought up on charges? And remember, he almost wasn't. They had to say, not so fast. We're going to be adjudicating this one very, very seriously. So yeah, BLM caused a lot of trouble. They caused the kid with the acne, I apologize, Rittenhouse, that kid, to go across state lines and shoot and injure and kill. BLM is a big, big problem. Not the racism, the bigotry, the police brutality, the murder. It's those who are protesting, good white people protesting, liberal, good people saying this is not okay. They are the problem in America, not the Karens. They are.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's also, again, it's so strange because like a lot of people might think, they're like new to media politics. They're like, oh, it's like he's a YouTuber. It's kind of like the Damage Report. They go out there and they see the news. No, it's just like they sit in their little room and they're like, what's the dumbest, most racist thing we can do right now? And they don't all answer it exactly the same. Charlie Kirk last year was like, I'm gonna go to war with MLK Jr. I'm gonna try to ruin his reputation. That would be historically racist. And Ben Shapiro's like, I guess there's that dude that like killed a black man. This would be wild. What if we pardon him? What if we make him the head of the FBI or whatever? And that's what they do. They're not actually like nobody's life is ruined by the fact that Derek Chauvin is facing consequences for his actions. And Ben Shapiro, who is doing a daily news show amid a trade war, chaos among our foreign allies and all that, is like, I guess we could do a segment about pardoning Derek Chauvin or whatever. Again, we do the news. They distract their viewers from the news. It is not the same thing. Yes, we're both sitting at a desk. We both have a jacket on and a camera is facing both of us, but they're kind of the exact opposite thing. And by the way, I want to end with the good news before we move on. It's that, look, pardoning him would be offensive intentionally. It's a way for Donald Trump to, again, spit in the face of every black and brown person in America by siding with a killer in this way. But at the very least, it wouldn't actually make him go free because Donald Trump can't actually circumvent state level actions. So it was second-degree murder that he was convicted of in Minnesota. It's not a federal thing. And so he's not actually gonna walk free. But that said, it'll be a great news cycle for Fox News or whatever. Some of the worst people in America will briefly get turned on politically, I guess. That's something. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?